All right, so this will be a brand new series I'll be starting up. NBA players' results are sometimes situational, and this will be volume 1 starring Obi Toppin. As the Knicks are kind of reaching a pivotal point with Obi, as Julius Randle, he has basically solidified that power forward position spot. It is no doubt solidified and belongs to Julius Randle, as that was not the case when Obi Toppin was first drafted. Julius was in a contract in which the team did have options to kind of get rid of Randle after that third season, but we all see what Randle did in the 2020 bubble, and it kind of changed the whole situation with the Knicks. And Randle since then has kind of taken off. And the Knicks next season, they're gonna have to either choose to give Obi a contract, or he's gonna enter restricted free agency, and that has to happen before the start of next season. So once again, the NBA players' results could sometimes be situational. Austin Rivers kind of spoke on this, being a 10th overall pick, as he was never thrust into a situation where he could be that scoring leading guy. And he talked about, once a player leaves the team, other teams might not be as invested in him. But I'll check in every once in a while. You guys definitely check it out, as it really relates to Obi's situation and kind of gives you a player's perspective.
They traded him to Detroit. They kind of got off of him. They gave up on that project. You also were a lottery pick that didn't excel with the team that drafted you.
Right.
What's that like? Because I'm sure when you first get drafted by the team, you're like, I'm going to be here for 10 years and this is going to be my franchise. Especially him, he was a number 2 pick.
I really, I'm glad you asked me that, just because it's hard to deal with, man. I mean, that's not an easy feat. You start getting the name bust thrown at you. And I got that thrown at me early. And especially with so much hype I had coming out of high school in Duke, I always tell people, man, like, I was a top 10 pick in the NBA, number 1 in high school. There was a lot of pressure on me to come to the NBA and perform. And unfortunately, I'll point fingers at both ways. Myself, because you always have to take that as a player. And then the situation I was just, it wasn't really made for me to succeed. It just wasn't. And that happens sometimes. The NBA is very situational. And I got drafted to a situation where the ball wasn't rolled out for me to just be like, hey, Austin, go be you, go be free. And within my first year, I break my hand, missed 30 games. And I spent that sophomore summer. I went back to summer league. I dominated. And I felt really good coming into New Orleans to be that scorer that they wanted me to be. And they bring in Tyreek Evans and Drew Holiday. You know what I mean? Going into my sophomore season, this is what I have already.
Which is a big season for any player. This going to that sophomore season, it's a huge season for development.
And I never got that. As soon as that happened, that changed everything for me. So you just don't.
You can name a bunch. Markelle Fultz didn't work out for the Sixers. I thought his shot was broken and he would be done. He's a really good player for the Magic. He's playing really well.
Yeah.
Wendell Carter was a throwaway, I think, in the Vucevic trade from the Bulls to the Magic. I think he's a great young center, one of the better young bigs in the league now.
And that's you might not. One man's trash is another man's treasure. And the situation with me in New Orleans was just one of those that just didn't go right. And then you just move on and move forward. You make that next one work. And Wiseman and these other guys will do the same thing. I have no doubt. What they'll have to deal with, though, I just want to say this lastly. What they'll have to deal with is understanding they might not ever be what they thought they were gonna be as their draft pick. Okay, because it's different. All right, when you're drafted to someone, you're their baby, you're their investment, you're their pick. You know what I mean? When you go somewhere else, you're a chance. You're
low risk.
Low risk, high reward. Hey, we'll take Wiseman. We'll trade a little asset, a pick, a little bit of money, whatever they got. Just like I was with the Clippers. Just like he'll be here, the many names above you, right? It's different, right? So he has to learn now how to not only fit in, but be a great player within their scheme.
And that right there is a double trap that Obi kind of faces right there. Him coming into next season, if the Knicks don't extend him, it's going to lead him to hit restricted free agency. And if he goes to another team, he'll never, ever be the priority of that team. He's more than likely going to be stuck in that role player role going forward. And it's very unfortunate because the situation with the Knicks did change with Obi entering his sophomore season. Originally in his rookie season, of course, he was going to be behind Randle. But everyone thought, Randle was pretty much in a contract year where the Knicks more than likely wasn't going to renew him. But that's when Randle had that breakout season during that pandemic year. So unfortunately, the situation did change. The Knicks gave Randle an extension. And we've seen even this season, Randle, after struggling last season, he's gotten to another level. So his position is completely solidified. So Obi this season, once again, we see him stuck in that 9 minutes per game all the way up to like 14 minutes. Tibbs got him in a complete role player role. More than likely, if he hits restricted free agency at the end of next season, more than likely he's going to be stuck in that role on another team, which is initially not going to have that investment in him as the Knicks did as their own pick. But once again, with Leon Rose, the situation did change, because when we did draft Obi, there was a potential for him to start. But once again, Randall did have that breakout season, and then following this season with his all-star performance, his position is completely solidified. So of course things are gonna have to change. Obi's gonna have to pivot, and it'll be very interesting what him and his agent decide to do here, because I really don't think the Knicks are gonna offer Obi an extension next season, especially with Randall solidifying his position.
I tell people all the time, after I left New Orleans, my chances of being an all-star were never again. They were never again. I went to a must-win Clippers team, and then so on and so forth. Every team after that had their stars already. So it took me time in the league to not only be effective, but learn how to be a good role player.
As we've seen this season, Obi in his minutes between 9 to 14 minutes a game, in that small little window, Obi's developed a three-point shot. He really makes usage of what he can out of those minutes. His defense got slightly better, but it's still not there yet. His rebounding needs to improve, but he sort of kind of fit into that role player minutes, where he sort of just tries to give you what he can with that very few shot selection and just a limited amount of time to really impact the game. But Obi has definitely made the most out of it, and that's something I believe even Cam Reddish couldn't quite adjust to. And that was probably some of his issues with the Knicks.
Ego go and buy into being a legitimate, like, good role player. And that's what Wiseman has to do. That's what Fultz has done. That's what all these guys have done. Wendell Carter, these guys they don't take 20 shots a game, but they found ways to be effective in their role. The same thing I had to do and learn how to do is what Wiseman, I think, has to.
And Obi definitely this season has kind of made the most out of his minutes. Once again, like I said, he's developed that three-point shot. But him and his agent, they're going to really have to make a decision here, because, like I said, once again, Julius Randle has definitely solidified that power forward position on the Knicks squad. So Obi and his agent definitely going to have to either pivot to another team that's going to more than likely give Obi another role player role, maybe solidify him with like 25 minutes, or it's going to be less than that. But it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. Once again, before the start of the next season, the Knicks will have to give Obi an extension, or he's going to enter restricted free agency.